Canadian Michael Spavor found guilty of spying and sentenced to 11 years in prison by Chinese court. The same Chinese court upholds death penalty for Canadian prisoner Robert Schellenberg. All this coincides with Meng the Merciless Wanzhou's extradition trial in Canada. This is the Great White North Report. Yesterday, Canadian Michael Spavor was found guilty of spying and he's sentenced to 11 years in prison by a Chinese court. Now, our glorious Prime Minister Justin Trudeau calls it unacceptable, absolutely unjust, and that he's right. Michael Spavor is not guilty of spying. I don't know if you could spy for North Korea on China. It's highly unlikely, because that's what Michael Spavor was doing. He was trying to promote tourism in exchange with North Korea, open it up a little, which is a pipe dream in itself. And he's being used as a scapegoat for the Meng the Merciless extradition trial. So he gets to spend 11 years in a prison, and he's also being ordered deported by the court, though it's not immediately clear if it will happen before or after the 11th year prison sentence is served. Our Canadian Ambassador Dominic Barton, who was at the Spavor's hearing in Dandong, near the border with North Korea, believes it will occur after he completes the sentence. So he's going to spend 11 years in prison. And Barton condemned with the strongest possible terms this decision after a legal process that would lack both fairness and transparency. He's convicted of illegally providing state secrets to other countries. This is patently absurd, and that Spavor is just being a political pawn by the Chinese Communist Party because we arrested Meng Wanzhou back in 2018. Spavor spent 2.5 years in a Chinese prison as a result of an extradition request by the United States to Canada to arrest Meng Wanzhou as she was transiting from Vancouver to another country. The United States Embassy in Beijing also condemned the sentencing as an attempt to use human beings as bargaining leverage, and Trudeau condemns the sentence. Ottawa has repeatedly called on the Chinese government to release Spavor and Kovrig, who are both detained in what is widely seen as retaliation following the arrest of Meng Wanzhou in Vancouver 2018. So it's no surprise. China has also upped the pressure by upholding the death penalty for Canadian prisoner Robert Schellenberg. Schellenberg had appealed his original sentence for drug trafficking because he was arrested for supposed drug smuggling in 2014 and jailed for 15 years in late 2018. He appealed, but then they sentenced him to death in 2019, a month after Meng was arrested. So now Schellenberg, it's up to the Chinese Supreme Court for review, as required by law before any death sentence can be carried out. This guy went from a 15-year jail sentence to a death sentence, all because of this stupid chick we arrested way back. I highly doubt Schellenberg was part of a drug trafficking ring. And it's kind of ludicrous, especially since the Chinese Communist Party is also involved in the wholesale distribution of fentanyl across the world. But what can you do? Dominic Barton spoke to reporters after the hearing and called for China to grant clemency. Canadian diplomats have talked to Schellenberg after the ruling but declined to give details. He's remarkably composed, but in good conversation. We had a good conversation. So all this is happening. These two rulings came on the heels of the next part of Meng Wanzhou's trial, while her defense argues that abuse by former U.S. president officials requires a stay in the extradition. Trump, of course, tweeted his mouth off during the time, but that's up to him. The fact is, the United States requested we arrest her on suspicion of fraud, and we complied as part of our treaty. We could have did the same thing. So Meng's lawyers are claiming that the pattern of abuse stretching from the former U.S. president to the men and women who first detained his client more than 2.5 years ago, and that it was contrary to the rule of law. No, it's not. What's contrary to the rule of law is what happened to Spavor, Kovrig, and Schellenberg, and what they're going through. Kangaroo court system, because you got to remember, in China they have a 99% conviction rate. Your chances of once you get arrested in China are not good. So their argument is that to proceed with condone conduct antithetical to Canadian values and antithetical to the rule of law. First of all, Meng Wanzhou is not Canadian, even though she owns 2 houses in Canada, and there was nothing wrong with what the Canadian officials did when they arrested her. Remember, if we do send her to the United States for an extradition, she will not face the death penalty. She will not face any prison terms. She will have to pay a fine, is what's going to happen. And it's going to be a hefty fine. So she's been arrested for 2.5 years. She hasn't served any jail time other than maybe a couple of days while she got her bail request. She was released on bail. Meanwhile, Kovrig and Spavor have been sitting in a prison for 2.5 years, being interrogated and who knows what. Now, opposition leader Arnold warns Canadians are not safe in China after court upholds death sentence. And it's true, Canadians are not safe in China, for that matter. And we want to send our athletes to the Olympics in 2022? I don't think so. I'm all for calling for a boycott of those Winter Olympics. And I'll even go one step further and let's say we have a rival games in Vancouver, Calgary. Let's use our facilities again and invite countries from around the world. Even if they send their B team, I'd even invite Taiwan and allow them to fly their flag and play their national anthem. Because in the Olympics, if you didn't notice, Taiwan doesn't get to fly their own flag. They have to fly the Olympic Committee flag because China refuses to acknowledge it. It's time for China to face the reality that Taiwan is an independent country for all intents and purposes. They've never controlled it and hopefully never will. And Canada should stand up and help defend Taiwan from such a bully neighbor. So O'Toole's in the same mind as me has reopened the door to a Canadian boycott of the Olympics, warning the Chinese government's recent actions demonstrate Canadians are not safe in the country. What more do we need? China is responsible for the CCP pandemic, the virus that swept the nation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of wearing a mask. And I have to wear one at work now. I'm wearing a mask at least 8 hours a day. It's not fun. And the Chinese Communist Party has blamed everyone but themselves. They have not apologized or said, hey, we made a mistake, we're going to try and fix it. No, they've refused to accept responsibility for the actions of their government. They tried to cover it up, they've lied, they blame foreigners for this. They've done everything they can except accept the responsibility of what they've done. They destroyed the world economy for a year, kept people locked up in their homes, killed people around the world because of what they unleashed on us. And here we are going to celebrate the Olympics next year? Come on. Give your heads a shake. I'm with O'Toole on that one. Trudeau is a China lover, and he'll probably send our athletes there, and if the Canadian Olympic Committee says boycotts don't work. But that's a step in the right direction, though. Why are we... Because China, the Communist Party in China looks upon the Olympics as a sense of recognition. All propaganda for them. Why are we... And why is Canada giving into that kind of propaganda? Pull out of the Olympics would be the first step. Second step would be, let's pull all our citizens and consulates and embassies and our embassy out of China and send it up in Taiwan. Recognize the government of Taiwan as the legitimate government of China under the One China rule. That would be step 2. Step 3, let's station some troops. Let's send some troops in Taiwan. Or have Taiwanese troops train in Canada. So it's time to take a harder approach on China, because they're not going to listen to soft power that Trudeau's doing. Trudeau's taking a very soft line because he is a China lover himself, and all he does is just criticize China on their human rights violations. Well, it's time to put words into action and do something drastic, because China won't listen to that. They only respect power. And if we start by doing that, plus seizing all Communist Party assets in Canada, which are quite a lot, our Meng Wanzhou, take her houses away. Put her in jail. Let's have a mirror policy. You do that to our citizens, we're going to start doing that to your citizens. Simple as that. Any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think, what we should do with China. Should we take a harder approach, or should we just give in and give this stupid chico back to them? I am definitely for the harder approach, but I want to know what other people think. Till next time, this has been the Great White North Report.